Tom Smothers, the older half of the comic folk duo the Smothers Brothers, whose skits and songs on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour in the late 1960s brought political satire and a spirit of youthful irreverence to network television, paving the way for shows like Saturday Night Live and The Daily Show, died on Tuesday at his home in Santa Rosa, Calif., a city in Sonoma County. He was 86. He died following a recent battle with cancer, a spokesman for the National Comedy Center announced on behalf of the family. The Smothers Brothers made their way to network television as a folk act with a difference. With Tom playing guitar and Dick playing stand-up bass, they spent as much time bickering as singing.
With an innocent expression and a stammering delivery, Tom would try to introduce their songs with a story, only to be picked at by his skeptical brother. As frustration mounted, he would turn, seething, and often deliver a trademark non sequitur, "Mom always liked you best." Hoping to reach a younger audience, CBS gave the brothers creative control over the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, a one-hour variety show that made its debut in February 1967. For the next 3 seasons it courted controversy as it addressed American policy in Vietnam, religious fundamentalism, racial strife and recreational drug use. Running features like Lee French's Share a Little Tea with Goldie, replete with drug references, either delighted or scandalized, depending on the age and the politics of the viewer.
During the first year, we kept saying the show has to have something to say more than just empty sketches and vacuous comedy, Mr. Smothers said in a 2006 interview. So we always tried to put something of value in there, something that made a point and reflected what was happening out in the streets.
Tom, more liberal than his brother and largely responsible for the production of the show, brought in writers attuned to the thinking of the baby boom generation, among them Rob Reiner, Steve Martin, Pat Paulson, and Mason Williams, and stretched the boundaries of taste at every turn. Easter is when Jesus comes out of his tomb, and if he sees his shadow he goes back in and we get 6 more weeks of winter, Tom said on one show. Far more combative than his mild-mannered brother, who survives him, Tom fought network executives and censors until CBS, tired of complaints from its rural affiliates, especially in the South, abruptly cancelled the show in April 1969 and replaced it with Hee Haw, a cornpone counterpart to the fast-paced, and often controversial, Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, that featured country music stars.
In any other medium we would be regarded as moderate, Tom Smothers told reporters at a news conference the day after the show was cancelled. Here we are regarded as rebels and extremists. Thomas Boleyn Smothers III was born on February 2, 1937, on Governor's Island in New York Harbor, where his father, a West Point graduate and Army major, was stationed. The family relocated to Manila when Major Smothers was reassigned. Shortly before the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, the family moved again, to the Los Angeles area, where Tom and Dick's mother, Ruth Remick Smothers, had grown up. She found work in an aircraft factory.
Major Smothers remained on Corregidor in Manila Bay to fight and was taken prisoner on the Bataan Peninsula in the Philippines. He survived the Bataan Death March, but in 1945 he died of injuries sustained when American planes mistakenly bombed the prison ship transporting him to a camp in Japan. Tom attended an assortment of schools as his mother descended into alcoholism and moved from husband to husband. In 1955, he graduated from Redondo Union High School, where he was a state champion on the parallel bars. While in high school, he and Dick, 2 years his junior, sang in a barbershop group that won second prize on Rocket to Stardom, a local talent contest broadcast from the showroom of a Los Angeles Oldsmobile dealer. At San Jose State College, now university, where Tom studied advertising, the brothers decided to ride the folk music wave and formed the Casual Quintet. In early 1959, by then a trio with Bobby Blackmore as lead singer, they began performing at the Purple Onion in San Francisco, a popular showcase for folk singers and comedians, billed as the Smothers Brothers and God.
Gradually, the brothers introduced comic patter into their act, satirizing the folk music scene and turning their sibling rivalry, which was genuine, into shtick. The act slowly evolved to be a running argument between 2 brothers who sang but never finished a song, Mr. Smothers said in 2006.
Audiences loved it. Their 2-week engagement at the Purple Onion was extended to 9 months, and in 1961 the Smothers Brothers, now a duo, were booked into the Blue Angel in New York.
Robert Shelton, reviewing the show in the New York Times, compared Tom's delivery to a frightened 10th grader giving a memorized talk at a Kiwanis meeting.
He added, he speaks in a nervous, distracted sort of cretin double talk that has him stumbling over big words, muffing lines with naive unconcern, singing off key, committing malapropisms, garbling lyrics and eternally upstaging his younger brother.
The brothers became regulars on The Tonight Show, with Jack Paar, The Gary Moore Show, and The New Steve Allen Show. They signed with Mercury Records and recorded The Smothers Brothers at the Purple Onion, the first of several successful albums. They toured college campuses non-stop.
In 1963, Tom married Stephanie Shaw. The marriage ended in divorce, as did his marriage to Rochelle Robley. In addition to his brother, he is survived by his wife, Marcy Carricker Smothers, their son, Beau, and daughter, Riley Rose Smothers, and a grandson. His son from his first marriage, Thomas Bolland Smothers IV, died last year. In a statement, Dick Smothers said, Tom was not only the loving older brother that everyone would want in their life, he was a one-of-a-kind creative partner. In 1965, CBS gave the brothers their own sitcom, The Smothers Brothers Show, produced by Aaron Spelling. It did not play to their strengths. Tom played a probationary angel sent back to Earth to move in with and watch over his brother, a swinging bachelor played by Dick. The ratings were strong, but it was a miserable experience. Deprived of their instruments and the live audience, and saddled with a laugh track, the brothers struggled. It was a nothing show, Tom told the New York Times in 1967. There was no point of reference, nothing meaningful, no satire in it. After The Gary Moore Show failed to challenge Bonanza on Sunday nights, Michael Dann, the head programmer at CBS, took a chance on a Smothers Brothers variety show. Expectations were low, but the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour connected with viewers, especially younger ones, and outperformed Bonanza in the ratings. The humor was irreverent, the writing was sharp, and musical guests like The Who and Jefferson Airplane broke the variety show mold. The brothers looked like clean-cut collegians, but the cheery, up-tempo songs could bite. The war in Vietnam keeps on a raggin', one began. Black and whites still haven't worked it out. Pollution, guns and poverty surround us, no wonder everybody's dropping out.
A war with CBS executives began almost immediately, and a pattern quickly developed. The censors would cut words, lines or entire sketches. Mr. Smothers would fight tooth and nail to have them reinstated, often successfully. When thwarted, he would complain loudly and publicly. After CBS cut the words breast and heterosexual from an early sketch, written by Elaine May, about two professional censors, played by Tom Smothers and Ms. May, Mr. Smothers told The Times, "The censors censored the censorship bit. It's a real infringement of our creative rights."
He lost the first round of his campaign to have Pete Seeger, absent from television after being blacklisted in the 1950s, perform his anti-war ballad, Waist Deep in the Big Muddy. The segment was pulled in 1967 but broadcast a year later.
Television is old and tired, Mr. Smothers told McCall's magazine in 1968. Television is a lie. The people who censor our shows are all conditioned to a very scared way of thinking, which is reflected in the kind of programs the networks put on. Television should be as free as the movies, as the newspapers, as music to reflect what's happening. CBS began insisting that an advance tape of each week's show be sent to the network and its affiliates for their review. In April 1969, when the tape of a show that included a satirical sermon delivered by the comedian David Steinberg failed to arrive on schedule for the second time, CBS informed the brothers that they had broken their contract and that the show, whose option had been renewed 2 weeks earlier, would be cancelled. The move was not a complete surprise. Tommy has been sticking pins in CBS ever since he started feeling his oats when he found he could command good ratings, Percy Shane, the television critic for the Boston Globe, wrote. He has been at times snide, ugly, resentful, bullheaded. In his various arguments with the network he has refused to compromise one iota. Every deletion meant a battle.
TV Guide, in a stern editorial, deemed the cancellation wise, determined and wholly justified. For the rest of his life, Mr. Smothers remained convinced that President Richard M. Nixon, who had assumed office just 3 months earlier after defeating Vice President Hubert H. Humphrey, had pressured CBS to cancel the show.
When Nixon said, "I want those guys off," they were off, he told Speaking Freely, a television program produced by the First Amendment Center, in 2001. If Humphrey had been elected, we would have been on. The brothers briefly returned to network television in 1970 with the tepid, Smothers Brothers Summer Show, on ABC. The next year Tom, increasingly outspoken on politics, starred, without his brother, in Tom Smothers' Organic Primetime Space Ride, a syndicated half-hour variety show that was long on relevance and short on laughs.
"I lost perspective, my sense of humor," he said in the 2006 interview. "I became a poster boy for the First Amendment, freedom of speech, and I started buying into it. It was about 3 years when I was deadly serious about everything." Tom pursued a career as an actor, in Serial, The Silver Bears, and other movies. With his brother, he appeared in the comedy, I Love My Wife, on Broadway in 1978 and on a national tour.
The brothers reunited on television in 1975 for a new, tamer version of The Smothers Brothers Show, broadcast on NBC, and a 1988 reunion show. They also appeared, not as brothers, in a short-lived 1981 drama series, Fits and Bones. But their career ended as it had begun, in concert performances.
Tom added a new comic persona to the act, Yo-Yo Man, performing dazzling yo-yo tricks that he learned after falling in love with the song, I'm a Yo-Yo Man. In 2010, Tom announced that he and _X000D_